Welcome to the Crypto 101 show, where we dive into the world of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, blockchain, and all the technology with it. Whether you're experienced or a beginner to crypto, our goal is to break down complex concepts and make it easy for you to understand the basics. From Bitcoin to altcoins, we'll cover it all in a way that's easy to digest and provide listeners with the knowledge and understanding they need to make informed decisions and better critical thought. Sit back, relax, and let's simplify your understanding of cryptocurrencies on the Crypto 101 show. Part 4. Volatility, whales, and manipulation. Can we really trust Bitcoin? The fear of pump and dumps, social media influence, and shadow manipulation. I need to start off by saying this is not financial advice, so if you're looking for that, this show isn't for you. The content of this podcast episode is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are not meant to be taken as financial investment or any other advice. Welcome back to the Bitcoin series part 4. In the last episode, we talked about influence, how Bitcoin changes who holds the power, and how the power can still shape culture, politics, and perception. But today, we zoom in on the money itself, because for all the talk about freedom and decentralization, most people have a similar question. Can I actually use this stuff? Can I rely on Bitcoin when prices swing wildly from week to week? Can I trust it to not be manipulated like Wall Street? And is it really immune from the same tricks that broke our current financial system? Volatility, market manipulation, the role of whales, this is where the rubber meets the road, where ideology meets economics. Because if Bitcoin can't hold its value, or worse, if it's still vulnerable to the same games, then what are we really building? This episode is about confronting those hard truths, not with hype, not with fear, but with a grounded look at what Bitcoin is, what it isn't, and what it still needs to become. So let's get into it. Question 1. How does Bitcoin volatility affect real-world purchasing power? When people first hear about Bitcoin, one of the biggest concerns, especially from people outside the crypto world, is the volatility. One day it's $60,000, the next it's $40,000, then back to $50,000 again. It's a financial roller coaster that nobody asked to ride. Let's be real, the average person isn't asking, how does blockchain change incentives? They're asking, can I use this thing to pay rent without worrying every time the price drops 10% overnight? And that brings up a very real question. How can something be money or a store of value if its price swings this wildly? If I earn 0.01 Bitcoin today and I can buy groceries with it, what happens if the same Bitcoin loses 30% by the end of the week? Or flip side, what if it gains 30% and I just spent it? This kind of volatility makes it really hard to plan, hard to budget, hard to save. And it's hard to convince the average person to trust it as a day-to-day money. Now, let's zoom out. Why is Bitcoin so volatile? Well, part of it's just market maturity. Bitcoin is still young compared to national currencies or gold. There's less liquidity, a smaller pool of buyers and sellers, so every big buy or sell move swings the price much harder than in traditional markets. It's also unbacked. No central bank is there to stabilize it, no interest rates to tweak, no money printer go burr button to smooth things over. That's by design, and it's part of the appeal. But it also means Bitcoin's value is 100% determined by open market forces: supply, demand, speculation, fear, hype, and narratives. So where does that leave purchasing power? Real quick, purchasing power refers to the amount of products and services available for purchase with a certain currency unit. An example of this is if you purchase a can of Pepsi for $1, but the following year the same can of Pepsi costs $2, the purchasing power of a single US dollar changed. So if you are in a stable economy like the US, it's understandable why this feels like a deal breaker. But if you're in Argentina, Lebanon, Venezuela, where fiat loses 20% or more of its value monthly, Bitcoin's volatility can actually feel less risky, because despite the ups and downs over a long time horizon, Bitcoin has trended up, fiat has trended down. So it really depends on your frame of reference. In hyperinflation, which is where the price of all goods and services rise uncontrollably over a defined time period, volatility is a gamble some are willing to take, because it's still better than guaranteed loss. But for Bitcoin to truly function as money, not just an investment. The volatility has to settle down. That will take time, broader adoption, deeper liquidity, more uses spending money rather than just speculative money. But until then, most people will likely use Bitcoin like digital gold, not to buy coffee, but to store value long term, a kind of financial bunker rather than a daily wallet. So, can Bitcoin serve as stable purchasing power today? For most people, not yet. But can it offer stronger purchasing power over the long haul, especially compared to weakening fiat? The answer might be yes. Question 2. Can Bitcoin ever be safe from price manipulation, or is it built into the system? When people talk about Bitcoin being decentralized, the assumption is, well, at least it's not rigged like Wall Street. But here's the uncomfortable truth: manipulation still happens. And in Bitcoin, it's not behind closed doors, it's happening right in front of us. Let's define it first. Price manipulation is any effort to move the market in an artificial way, to cause panic or greed or a massive shift so the manipulator can profit. Now think about how that plays out in Bitcoin. A whale sells off thousands of Bitcoin suddenly, tanks the price, coordinated buys to spark a rally, pumps the price, a high profile influencer tweets Bitcoin to 1 million, sparks FOMO, and then leverage gets liquidated and billions disappear in hours. We've seen this over and over, and most recently with a high ranking politician launching his own coin. This isn't a theory, it's happening live. With Bitcoin, it drops 15% in one day because of a single news event or wallet movement. People lose fortunes because someone big decided to sell. And that brings us to whales. Bitcoin is decentralized by design. No central bank, no CEO, no gatekeeper. But ownership is still very concentrated. Roughly 2% of wallets hold over 90% of the Bitcoin in circulation. And when those wallets move, the entire market watches, panics, and reacts. Even if it's not intentional manipulation, the effect is the same. A few players can shake the entire system. To be fair, in Bitcoin, all of this is visible. You can literally watch the big wallets. There are no secret bailouts, no shadow banks quietly reshaping interest rates. That's an upgrade from traditional finance. But let's be clear, transparency isn't the same as safety. You might see the manipulation, but you can't always stop it. So what's the real answer? Bitcoin may never be 100% immune to manipulation, but it can become harder to manipulate over time. As adoption grows, as liquidity deepens, as usage shifts from speculation to spending, as tooling evolves to detect and resist coordinated moves. Right now, Bitcoin is still in the early innings. It's fragile, reactive, emotional. But that doesn't mean it's broken. It just means it's young. So no, Bitcoin isn't perfectly safe from manipulation, but at least this time the game is being played in the open. And that's a start. Question 3. Is Bitcoin really any different from Wall Street, or are we just building a new version of the same system? This is the part where we hold up the mirror, because if Bitcoin is supposed to be the future, we have to ask whether it's actually different from what it's replacing or just wearing different clothes. Wall Street was built on a promise of opportunity, but over time it became a machine for wealth consolidation, inside power, and systematic exclusion. So, is Bitcoin breaking that cycle or just copying the structure but swapping suits for hoodies? Let's start with what's different. Bitcoin is open source. No secret contracts, no closed doors meetings. It's borderless. Anyone with an internet connection can participate. It's transparent. Transactions are on a public ledger, and it's supply capped. No money printer, no bailouts, no QE. Those are radical shifts, and they matter because they change the foundation. And here's the tension. Even with all of that, we're still seeing some familiar patterns emerging. Whales move markets with a single transaction. Influencers can hype coins for their own gain. Speculation can drive prices more than utility. Platforms gatekeeper access just like banks. People even treat crypto like a stock portfolio instead of a tool for freedom. It's not the protocol that's the problem. It's the culture and ethics we're building on top of it. Because if we bring the same greed, the same obsession with status, the same race to be early and extract value, we're not escaping Wall Street. We're just rebuilding it on the blockchain. Let's zoom out on the deeper point. The question isn't just, is Bitcoin different? It's, are we different? Because a decentralized system with centralized behavior is still vulnerable, and code can't fix human ego. Bitcoin gives us the rails for something better, but it's on us to decide whether we're using it to liberate or just to replicate the power structures we claim to hate. If we want Bitcoin to be more than just another Wall Street playground, we have to actively build systems, cultures, and incentives that reward fairness, not just fortune. We don't need to be perfect, but we do need to be intentional. Because decentralization isn't an escape hatch, it's a blank canvas, and what we paint on it is up to us. So where does that leave us? Bitcoin was supposed to be the antidote to broken systems. No printing, no bailouts, no banks rigging the rules behind closed doors, and in many ways it is. But if we're honest, the game hasn't just disappeared, it's just evolved. Bitcoin gives us something rare in this world, a financial system you can see, a code base you can verify, a network that doesn't care who you are, only that you showed up. That doesn't fix everything, but it changes what's possible. So if Bitcoin is volatile, manipulated, or messy right now, maybe that's not failure. Maybe that's just what early systems look like before people decide what kind of values they're going to bring to them. If you've made it this far, you're not just here for the price charts. You're here for the big questions. Next up in part 5, what is wealth really? We're unpacking if Bitcoin is just creating a new kind of generational wealth. Are we just building class divide? How can new people enter the system without being priced out? Until then, stay curious, stay grounded. I want to be extremely upfront that I try my best to leave all of my opinions out of this. I know this is very condensed and simplified, but I want you to gain your own understanding and beliefs and not be persuaded by me. I hope this helped you gain a better grasp of it. Please remember to share, follow, and subscribe to our mailing list and to your favorite podcast app for future episodes so you can gain more with your crypto knowledge. If this sparked something in you or made you question what's possible, I'd love to hear about it, and if you found this valuable, share it, tag someone who needs to hear it, or just sit with it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Crypto 101 Show. If you would like to join our email list, email us at thecrypto101show@gmail.com. For more helpful tips, subscribe in your favorite podcast app and leave a review so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time.